Welcome back to our horror storytelling channel. Today, I'm going to take you on a journey that I guarantee, if you listen until the end, you'll never look down at the earth with the same innocent eyes again. There is a place, deep within the endless frozen expanse of Siberia, where people believe they have touched actual hell. Not just because of its unimaginable depth, not just because of the eerie sounds that echo from the darkness, but because of what emerged from it. Something that does not belong to this world. Have you ever imagined that if a hole were deep enough to reach the Earth's core, it might not just be rock and fire? That maybe, beneath our feet there exists another form of life, silent, ancient, and still waiting to be awakened? Don't look away. Because up next is the expedition into the Siberian Hellhole, and the horrifying mysteries behind the sounds recorded over 14 kilometers deep, sounds that resemble the screams of people crying out from hell. Excellent, let's begin the journey. In 1984, a Soviet geology team was assigned to survey the deep geological layers in the Kola region, northern Siberia. The government did not publicly announce this information. Only a few knew about the project. They called it the Kola Super Deep Borehole, though locals gave it a more chilling nickname, the Door to Hell. At first, it was just a scientific endeavor. The drill, long and thick like a steel serpent, slowly bored through layers of sedimentary rock, descending kilometers into the earth. Every meter dug was one step closer to something unseen by mankind. But at a depth of over 12,000 meters, strange phenomena began to occur. The pressure sensors began to give constant errors. The borehole suddenly heated up far beyond expected temperatures. The scientists were puzzled but pressed on. They were atheists, believers in science, completely indifferent to the villagers' superstitious warnings. The locals said, "You are drilling into hell," and were laughed at every time they showed fear in their eyes when looking toward the rig. Then, that night, on November 13th, 1984, the temperature in the hole suddenly spiked. A loud sound echoed from deep underground. It wasn't rock breaking, it wasn't metal clashing, it was a scream. Someone, or something, was screaming in the darkness. At first, everyone thought it was a hallucination. A young technician named Pavel, who was in charge of monitoring audio from the bottom of the hole, turned pale as he listened through his headset. He immediately recorded the sound and threw off his headphones, his mouth mumbling incoherently. I heard voices, people screaming, many people, they're in pain. They played the recording multiple times. The volume was increased. The entire control room froze. It was a chaotic sound, screams, groans, metal clashing, and a piercing, inhuman laughter. It was deep, rough, drawn out like a grotesque melody. No one dared say it out loud, but all of them thought the same. It was the sound of hell. But it didn't end there. That night, one of the lead researchers, Professor Viktor Andreev, vanished without a trace. He was last seen standing near the edge of the borehole, smoking a cigarette, staring into the black void below. A passing security guard said he kept mumbling, "It's watching me. In that darkness, it knows my name." The search went on all night without results. Police were informed, but no one truly wanted to approach the rig. A snowstorm came in suddenly, as if a punishment from the sky. And then, when dawn broke, something rose from the hole. No one dared to get close. But security cameras captured a tall shadow, humanoid in shape but with unnaturally long arms, standing motionless at the mouth of the borehole for 47 seconds. Then it vanished. No footprints, no heat signature, but everyone felt it hadn't gone far. In the following weeks, electronic devices malfunctioned constantly. Heat sensors exploded without clear cause. One worker was injured by an invisible force that dragged him toward the edge of the hole. He screamed as if a demonic hand had grabbed him, though no one was around. They had to tie him down with cables. And then the dreams began. No one at the drilling camp could sleep peacefully. Everyone dreamed the same thing. An ancient city submerged in blood, endless fire, and countless grotesque creatures crawling, screaming, lifting their faces to the sky in despair. A voice echoed in their heads, wordless, but unmistakably furious. A theologian was brought in from Moscow to investigate. He had studied ancient symbols, occult religions, and supernatural phenomena. Upon hearing the recording, he stood silent for a long moment, then asked, "What have you awakened?" That he pointed to a faint symbol etched on a stone slab retrieved from a depth beyond 13,000 meters. It was a spiral surrounded by strange characters, unlike any known language. After days of research, he concluded these were not human symbols. They belonged to the ones who dwell in the deep, what ancient Babylonian legends called the Anunnaki, or the exiled beneath the earth. Panic began to spread through the team. Some fled, abandoning the camp in the middle of a snowstorm. Others locked themselves in their rooms, refusing to come out. The rest carried a haunted look in their eyes that could never be washed away. Then one night, no one could sleep. The ground trembled. Not like an earthquake, but as if something massive was stirring beneath the earth. The surrounding trees shed their leaves in an instant. Snow melted into pools of thick black liquid. The sky above the rig turned blood red. And once again, that laughter, the indescribable sound, rose from the depths. The technician on duty died on the spot, his mouth twisted, eyes bleeding. All recording equipment was destroyed, except for one segment. A single frame showing a long, slender, charred hand slowly placing itself on the rim of the borehole like something preparing to climb out. That video was never released. It was kept secret by the KGB. But a leaked copy made its way to me, and that's how I know this story. And if you're still listening, stay alert, because what comes next may ensure you never see a deep hole or the frozen land of Siberia the same way again. After that night's incident, the Soviet government issued a ban on accessing the Kola drilling site. They released a brief statement. Due to unstable geological conditions, the entire project is suspended indefinitely. But the people of Murmansk knew better than anyone that there's no such geological condition that could make dozens of people vanish or cause the sky to change color, trees to wither overnight. The authorities began erecting barbed wire fences, placing armed guards to stand watch day and night. Anyone who approached within a 10-kilometer radius was immediately expelled. Though the snow kept falling, those soldiers never stepped out of their guard posts, never dared take another step toward the mouth of the hole. They didn't need to be told. They knew something was alive down there, and it knew they were watching it. In 1985, nearly a year after the incident, an unidentified civilian research group secretly infiltrated the so-called Hellhole area, carrying handheld video cameras and audio equipment. They were either curious explorers, thrill seekers, or perhaps madmen. But when the footage they left behind was found inside a blood-stained, frozen plastic bag at the edge of the forest, the world was left only with what the camera had captured. None of them ever returned. The footage was hazy with snow and fog, but the voices were clear. They laughed at first, joking about the gates of hell. But when they reached the edge of the hole, an eerie silence fell. The wind stopped blowing. The trees on the other side ceased to rustle, and from that thick black abyss, it wasn't the wind, it was a breath, the breath of something alive. The one holding the camera stepped closer, panned it down into the pit, but nothing could be seen, just thick, inky darkness. Then suddenly, the screen shook violently, a scream rang out, and the camera dropped to the ground. The final frame managed only to capture a thin, jet-black hand with long claw-like fingers, crawling out of the mouth of the pit. I met someone from the original research team of the Kola project. When I found him, he was living like a recluse deep in the southern forests of Russia, near the Georgian border. His name was Ilya Sidorov, once the lead drilling engineer on the team. Ilya was no longer someone you could call sane. His eyes were always wide open, never blinking, as if he feared that if he blinked, that thing would reappear. In a damp little tent, he told me something no official record dared to write down. "Do you know why they stopped the project?" he whispered. "It wasn't the equipment, not pressure or temperature. It's because we drilled into something that doesn't belong to this earth." I froze as he continued, his eyes unblinking, seemingly staring straight through me. "That thing, it doesn't need to eat, doesn't need to breathe, it just sleeps, has been sleeping for millions of years underground. But we, with our foolish drill, woke it up. You don't understand. That laughter, it wasn't laughter, it was a greeting. It's calling you down to see. When I asked if he had seen it, Ilya smiled, an empty smile as if all emotion had been scraped clean from his soul. I looked into the hole, and the hole looked back at me. A few days later, I received a package from an untraceable address. Inside was a VHS tape and a hastily scribbled note in Russian, shaky as if written in terror. It's not alone. It's not alone. They're everywhere beneath the ground. I watched the tape. Even as a horror storyteller who had seen the craziest stuff online, it still made my hair stand on end. In the video, it was the underground chamber of the drill site, apparently recorded by an automated camera. There, under flickering dim lights, a tall, hairless creature with skin like scorched stone stood motionless. Its head turned 180 degrees, eyeless, but you knew it could still see. Behind it stretched a trail of shadows gliding along the concrete ceiling like bats suspended in reverse time. And at the end of the clip, that same sound echoed again, thousands of screams blending with the laughter of the dark. A few years after the Soviet Union collapsed, the Americans began accessing leaked classified files. Many documents showed that the final research notes from the surviving scientists all recorded. The deepest geological layer in that region bore no resemblance to anything on Earth. The crystal structure was unusual, the minerals didn't react with radiation like normal, and the magnetic field was so strong it bent compasses. One final note in the file, crossed in red ink, reads, "Structure is unnatural, possibly a construction, origin unknown." Yes, you heard that right, a construction deep beneath the earth, built by someone or something. I know, by now, you might be thinking, this is just a conspiracy theory, a spiritual game woven from old Soviet-era rumors. But you should know that there are things that exist whether we believe in them or not. And the scariest part is that these are the things humanity was never meant to touch. After the VHS tape surfaced, I began searching for other traces, any reports, witnesses, or forgotten records related to the Hellhole. I knew I had to be careful because, according to Ilya, the Russian government still closely monitored anyone who got too close to this secret. But my curiosity wouldn't let me stop. I went to Finland, where a woman who had once been a translator for Soviet documents was living in a wooden house near the Russian border. Her name was Maria Viitanen, now in her 70s, but she still had a memory sharp enough to be terrifying. When I mentioned Kola and the sounds beneath the earth, her eyes glazed over and she pulled out an old, faded notebook, its edges scorched as if it had been deliberately set on fire. "They didn't come from Earth," she whispered, her fingers trembling as she turned the pages. "They've been imprisoned there by something stronger than humans. But humans, as always, think they're gods." The notebook was a handwritten translation of a top-secret document from 1983, detailing a meeting between the 3 lead scientists of the Kola project. The last page contained a single line: "If it breaks free, we won't just lose Siberia, we'll lose the whole world." At this point, you may ask, what is it? A creature, a spirit, or an extraterrestrial entity? Honestly, I don't know. What I do know is the series of events that followed, which I've tried to piece together like a bloodied, shattered picture. In 1989, at a small research camp near the Kola Peninsula, a group of atmospheric physicists reported that the magnetic field in the area began to experience unusual fluctuations, hundreds of times stronger than normal geomagnetic standards. 2 days later, the entire group disappeared. No blood, no footprints, only the cold research station with its equipment still running. The strange part was that all the clocks in the station had stopped exactly at 3:33 a.m., and each one had cracked in the glass in exactly the same way. 3:33 a.m., the darkest hour of the night, the sacred moment in ancient occult rituals. Not a coincidence. I found a soldier who had been stationed in the area after the incident. His name was Alexei, and he now lived anonymously in an abandoned monastery in Arkhangelsk. When I met him, he was silent for a long time, his eyes haunted as if he had experienced the apocalypse. Then he asked me, "Have you ever felt the ground beneath you? Breathing?" Before I could answer, he continued, We went into the research camp the next morning. No blood, no bodies, but the floor was corroded, as if every inch of wood had been drained of life. A strong, rusty smell, and beneath the main laboratory table, there was a circle carved into the wooden floor, very deep, as if made with a fingernail. Inside was a symbol I'll never forget, an eye without a pupil, bleeding from the eyelids. People called it the blind eye, but I know it was the thing watching us from beneath the ground. Alexei said that after that, each member of his unit began to lose their mind. Some committed suicide, some disappeared into the night and never came back. The survivors, none of them spoke anymore. It was as if a part of them had been swallowed by the darkness, and Alexei never slept again. "I hear it every night," he whispered, "the call echoing from beneath the foot of my bed. It knows I saw it. It knows I'm still alive." I began to realize something ancient, dark, and primal was living deep within the earth of Siberia. And that hellhole, it wasn't a geological accident. It was the eye of something that was imprisoned. Perhaps since before Earth took its current form. Maybe an entity that had been exiled from somewhere else in the universe. Perhaps you think I'm trying to scare you, but if you saw what I saw, you would never sleep again. At this point, I want to bring you back to the present because I have one final revelation. Last week, I received an anonymous email. It contained GPS coordinates leading to an area that doesn't appear on any map along the eastern border of Siberia. The attached note contained only 4 words: "It's about to wake up." And when I checked those coordinates, the strange part is that they lay exactly on a fault line that had never been discovered before. A rift that stretches from deep within Siberia to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Like a giant vein. Or an escape route. And now I must stop. Not because I want to, but because I hear something outside the window, even though I'm in the middle of the city. But there's no sound of cars, no wind, nothing. Just silence. Complete silence. That's how it begins. The darkness doesn't come with a roar. It comes with the silence. Thank you for following this journey to the end. If you're still here, still awake, then remember, there are doors that should never be opened. And there are sounds, even if heard just once in a lifetime, that can change everything you believe is real. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the other terrifying stories we'll share next. And if tonight you hear a knock on your door at 3:33 a.m., don't open it, because it might not be a person.